She did an internship there last year, and they liked her.
Okay.
So happy.
Yeah.
Sorry, Amy. Good evening. Welcome to the Terre Haute City Council, the Sunshine Meeting. It is Thursday, June 1st at 6:02 p.m. Roll call, Michelle, please.
Councilwoman Aller.
Here.
Councilman Azar.
Here.
Councilwoman Crossan.
Present.
Councilman DeBon.
Here.
Councilman Elliott.
Here.
Councilman Garrison.
Present.
Councilman Morris.
Here.
Councilman Nasser.
Present.
Councilman Nation.
Here.
All are present.
Okay, if this is your first time at any of our city council meetings, tonight is our Sunshine Meeting. It's basically a fact-finding meeting where nothing will be acted upon tonight. There are items up here, agendas up here on the front pew if you'd like to see what's on our agenda tonight. If you're wanting to talk about anything that's not on our agenda, you'll need to do that next week when we allow 30 minutes for public comment. First order of business, Michelle, please.
General Ordinance 5, 2017, amending City Code, Chapter 6, Section 4-313, dance permit liability insurance.
Petitioner to speak on this, please. Eddie?
Council, I can speak to this. We have a slight amendment here to the dance ordinance we passed late last year or earlier this year with regard to the insurance requirements based upon the size of a proposed dance. This will make it, if the council so approves, more affordable for getting and maintaining insurance for a smaller venue or number of people that would be present.
Is there anybody from the public that'd like to speak on General Ordinance 5, 2017? Council?
Mr. President.
Councilman Nation?
Eddie, do you know if anybody has actually applied for or been granted one of these permits yet?
To be honest, I believe we had one application very soon after this was originally passed. Since that, I've not been made aware. I believe those go through our controller's office. I helped create a checklist/permit once these were created, but since then, I've personally not seen one, so I can't answer that.
Was the one that was applied for granted?
I do not know.
Can you find out by next week?
Absolutely.
Thanks. I yield.
No one else? Next order of business, please.
Appropriation 1, 2017, $5,699 from edit number 0404 to demo of unsafe buildings, number 432018.
Petitioner to speak on this, please. Sorry, Chuck.
Yeah, Chuck Ennis, city engineer. As you guys know, when we tear down buildings, we recover some of the funds from liens on properties. This is appropriation to kind of replenish our line item for demolition of unsafe buildings.
Is there anyone from the public that'd like to speak on Appropriation 1, 2017? Council? Next order of business, please.
Appropriation 2, 2017, $6,686 from edit number 0404 to demo of unsafe buildings, number 432018.
And as I said before, this is to replenish our demolition of unsafe buildings line item from funds that we received from liens on properties.
Is there anyone from the public that'd like to speak on Appropriation 2, 2017? Council? Next order of business, please.
Thank you.
Appropriation 3, 2017, $1,283,513.02 from Lowett Special Fund number 0257 to services contractual number 432010.
Petitioner to speak on this, please.
Yes, Chuck Ennis, city engineer. Last year, the city received a special distribution, special Lowett local option income tax distribution from the state. And as part of that distribution, we were required to put it into a certain fund that the state asked us to create just for this fund. That's the fund, that's at line item 0257. We used money from our edit to pay our match money for Margaret Avenue project. this money would go back into what we're asking for is the money be appropriated to go back into services contractual for edit to kind of replace or replenish some of the money that was spent for the Margaret Avenue project. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Is there anyone from the public that'd like to speak on appropriation 3, 2017? Council? Chuck, I have a couple questions. Would the Margaret Avenue project be done without this appropriation? Because we got the money from the state, we weren't expecting it, so if we didn't get it, would it still be?
We've paid our match, but what we've done is we've depleted our edit. We've paid down our edit services contractual. This will replenish that edit and allow us to pay, for other projects.
What is the matching portion of that?
Oh, gosh. I can't remember.
You think you can find that out for next week?
Yes, certainly. What, you're looking for the NDOT match for Margaret Avenue?
Is that state matching or is that federal matching?
It's a state, before, our portion is figured by the state, by NDOT. And before the project was started, they sent us an invoice for our portion of the project. We paid that invoice from edit services contractual.
Okay.
And I can get you the exact numbers of what we paid them.
Okay. And did we try and apply for Indiana Crossings grant for the rest of it?
That application is due mid-July, I think July 14th is the application date for that. We intend on coming up with $1 million for that program. The state will give us $1 million. We provide $1 million. We need to produce a list of projects. It's got to be project specific. It can't be generic paving or generic sidewalks. We have to give them a list of projects and an estimated cost. We're going to give them that list with our application mid-July for $2 million. Some of that money will be paid out of edit services contractual, some from local road and street, and some from MVH.
So basically, us putting this back in services contractual will be able to do other projects in the future besides Margaret?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you said with the Indiana Crossings matching grant, are you going to do one big project or multiple projects?
It will be multiple projects. 7th Street will be the biggest one.
Well, the mayor said last week that he wasn't using the Indiana matching grant or last month, excuse me, for the 7th Street project.
I didn't hear that.
Okay.
But that's our intent. We're going to come up with, like I said, $2 million worth of projects. 7th Street will be one of them. But there'll be a list of other ones as well.
With the application, are you supposed to submit an assessment plan of the roads?
Pavement management plan, yes.
Do you have one available?
No, we don't. We're getting ready to submit that right now.
Okay. Do you think the council could have a copy of that when it's complete?
Sure, if you'd like one.
Other projects?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I'm sorry, what list of the projects too?
Yeah, list of
Okay.
projects, please.
Chuck, is it safe to say a lot, if not all of those projects would have been paid out of edit anyway? The ones that we're going to apply for?
We have, say again, the pay out of edit, yes.
So
We have $700,000 budgeted this year for paving and out of edit.
Okay, so moving this low to edit, and then that makes the edit money available for this $1 million match deal,
Right.
and then kind of...
Along with some of the other funds that we use for paving.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Chuck, and just to explain with the council what that assessment management plan is, could you explain what that is?
It's a rate-em scale, okay? We rate the pavement condition 1 to 10. And the plan essentially is, you list all the streets and their condition. And NDOT is focusing their attention on maintenance, crack sealing, we used to call chip and seal, those kind of maintenance kind of programs, and that's what this is primarily for, is that they want communities to assess the condition of all of their streets and submit that as a plan, and then kind of have the worst ones replaced first, along with highest traffic volumes and that sort of thing.
So what system did we use previously?
We basically had our own. It was an Excel spreadsheet, and we had our own little rating system. Now, what our task is to upgrade our system to match the state system.
Purdue takes care of that, don't they?
What's
I thought Purdue was behind that program as well.
LTAP is don't ask me what the acronym stands for, but, yeah, they're the ones that are kind of behind this. Other states have been using this for years. And like I said, it's a rating system.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks, Chuck. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next order of business, please.
Special Ordinance 22, 2017, rezoning of property located at 4361 East Wabash Avenue. Area planning has not met yet, so we do not have a recommendation.
Petitioner to speak on this? Welcome. You can just state your name and address for the record, please.
Luke Staley, 4501 East Old Fort Harrison Avenue. And I'm representing Kathy Long, purchasing on contingent of the zoning change. Her property indicated at 4361 Wabash. I'm looking to have zoning change from residential to commercial, to move my dental office, which is currently at 3528 Wabash, out there for better parking and handicap access.
Is there anyone from the public that'd like to speak on Special Ordinance 22, 2017? Council?
Mr. President?
Councilman Nation?
When I look at the site plan that you submitted,
Yes, sir.
I see one curb cut off of US 40 or Wabash Avenue that doesn't appear to be on this property. It's on the adjacent property. Will you be using that curb cut?
Yeah, there's a permanent easement written into the legal description that gives us access shared with the Kinder Music. And it goes directly into the parking lot.
No, that's the right answer. It's great that you can team up and use that one curb cut rather than having to create your own. Thank you. I yield.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next order of business, please.
Special Ordinance 23, 2017, rezoning of property located at 2955 South 9th and a half Street. Again, area planning has not met.
Petitioner to speak on this, please.
Good evening, Mr. President, fellow members of council. My name is Richard Shagley. I'm here tonight representing the petitioner, Cirque Incorporated. This property is currently zoned R1. There's a home on it. This property abuts an existing business. It's the hope of this petitioner that this property can be rezoned to match its classification that's currently set so they can expand their business in this location. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Is there a petitioner, or excuse me, anybody from the public that'd like to speak on Special Ordinance 23, 2017? Council?
Mr. President?
Councilman Nation?
Similar question, Richard. When I look at the site plan that was submitted, I see the proposed lean-to addition, and it appears to go over the adjacent property line. Is the house next door going to be, has that been acquired by your client?
They own the property.
They own the property?
Yeah, they own that property.
And are they going to tear that house down?
They will have to because it's within 50 feet of the commercial.
Right. Okay, thanks, I yield.
There are going to be some other requirements that area plan is going to pass through in speaking to them, but we'll go over that once they finalize that next week.
Would those be like screening and
Correct.
that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Since this is in a residential area?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, I yield.
Thank you, Mr. Shagley.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Next order of business, please.
Special Ordinance 24, 2017, rezoning of property located at 812 Oak Street. Again, area planning has not met.
Petitioner to speak on this, please. Can you just state your name and address for the record?
Good morning. My name is Ricky Ward. My address is 1843 East Sierra Drive, Hobstadt, Indiana, 47639. What I would like to do, so I acquired the original property at 812 Oak Street around 4 years ago, and over the last few years, I've also purchased 4 lots to the west and 1 lot to the east of the initial 812 Oak Street property. I applied for and made it all one parcel a year or 2 ago, where now it's all one lot and it's all called 812 Oak Street. While researching potentially doing a pole barn project for an indoor basketball court that was going to be dedicated to Matt Luking that was recently murdered here in Terre Haute, which was a college fraternity brother of mine and good friend, also realized when talking to engineering that my original home is already R3, but the lots that I've purchased around it are all R2. So I was supposed to apply and get all that zoning to R3 to match the home in the first place. It's currently used as a parking lot and volleyball court and just outside yard area. So I want to rectify the, I guess you would call it non-compliance of the way it's being used now as parking lot, volleyball court. And then I would also have that option with it being R3, if I build this indoor basketball court, the potential of down the line adding some other apartments or bedrooms and living facilities in that structure. That's not 100% guaranteed, but it would be an option. If this is not approved, then I would guess I would just build it as a duplex with a firewall and do the same thing under the current R2 zoning, but that's what I have for you at this time. Looking to upgrade from R2 to R3 to match the existing property. Open to your questions.
Is there anybody from the public that'd like to speak on Special Ordinance 24, 2017? Council? Councilman Nation.
Rick, we spoke on the phone, and at that time you characterized your plan as building a pole barn that people might eventually live in. Is that accurate?
I think that's pretty much what I just said, isn't it?
Do you know if there are other R3 properties around you other than the one that's currently a fraternity house?
I haven't researched that. I can tell you that there's several commercial properties around me. There's the, I think it's called Hanner Construction to the rear. There's the Terre Haute Brewing Company behind me as well. And then you have Coach's Corner across the street on 8th Street. And then there's the Ripley's Bar and the old Hoodocks Bar, all in the same vicinity of that property. I also own the 2 lots across the street, which are currently vacant lots. From what I hear, the house on the corner that was going to be condemned was bought and is being renovated. I don't know if that's available yet for rent, but I've seen the guy over there working when I've been in town. Everything else is either single family as far as I know or businesses, but I don't know what else is. And the gas station and CVS and all that's all right there.
You're right in your characterization that there's a lot going on in that area. The former Hoodocks recently sold, is being worked on. Of course, you mentioned Ripley's, and we know the project for the Terre Haute Brewing Company, which opened last year. The point is that there's a lot of positive energy in that area right now, and most of it's happening in existing buildings. The proposal to build a pole barn that people might live in, quote unquote, concerns me. When I try to visualize that, what I see is the building on North 8th Street by the railroad tracks close to ISU. Every time I drive by that, I think, we could have done better than a pole barn that people are living in. This is 4 blocks from my home, and at the edge of downtown, within the brewery district, where, as we've mentioned, a lot of positive things are happening now. Overall, when I think about the plans that I've heard expressed through Indiana State University and the downtown exercises that we've done, and then also through my involvement in Farrington's Groves Neighborhood Association over the years, the energy toward fraternity and sorority location has been to move them north of campus into the area around Locust Street, north of ISU, north of the railroad tracks. There have been a couple of buildings built up there that are purpose-built for lots of people. How many people are living in the current fraternity house? Do you know?
Well, and for the summer, like 3.
I'm not talking about the summer.
Right, during the school year, it's, 12 to 14, something like that.
And how many people do you project might live in the pole barn that you might build?
If that happened, like I said, that's not even a definite, but if in the future that happened, I was looking at a 6-bedroom, no more than 2 people per room, so up to 12. Somewhere between 10 and 12 is the proposed idea.
As I told you on the phone, I would personally, I would like to see something more substantial than a pole barn built, especially if people might live in it. Whatever is built is likely to be there for the rest of my life and the rest of the lives of the people here on the council. I would like, as the representative of that district, to just state for the record that we should be aiming high, and I would hope that you would share, as an investor in that area, that you would share that sentiment, that we would try to raise the level of what's around there as businesses and others who are investing in that area are currently doing. There's not really a rule that says you can't build a pole barn and let people live in it, I guess, since it's already happening. But I would ask my fellow council members, if this were going up 4 blocks from your house, how would you feel? If it were a block from your house, how would you feel? Anyway, on that note, I yield.
Okay. Like I said, we've previously spoken on the phone about this, and again, you said there's no rule or law against it, and I mean, that's pretty much fact. And my only rebuttal would be, I understand you living in the area and that you might not like how it would look, but if this is built, it will meet all building codes, it'll meet all fire codes, it'll be a professional engineer or architect that does the plans. All that stuff is going to be met, or it can't be built. I've already talked to city planning and engineering on that. And as far as aesthetics go, you have a massive pole barn with the sporting complex across the street, and you have rundown bars and a CVS that gets robbed every other week. So I don't think it really adds or takes away to the landscape of what's currently there, which is a bunch of dilapidated properties, condemned properties, empty lots, and bars. So that's all I have to say about that. I'm not so sure that another pole barn would really add or take away that much to the area. And I actually own another property down the street, and I've had that property since I was in graduate school at ISU, and the properties that I own are probably some of the nicest houses in that area. So I think if you look back at the records and see that I've also never been late on taxes, always renovated my properties quite well for the area, you'll take serious consideration of what I have proposed to the council. That's all I have in closing. Unless you have more questions.
Yeah, I have one. When I think of a pole barn, I think of stuff that's being stored there or commercial. Why, is your budget not suitable to do something that's more of a non-pole barn structure?
Well, currently, so I own all the property, and I own that area. Potentially looking at doing a joint venture with the Theta Chi Alumni Board, where they put some money in on the project, and they don't have that much money either. So yeah, if I wanted to go out and build a $500,000 structure, we could do that, but then you run the risk of what if it can't be filled and it's purpose built, for fraternity guys, and if the fraternity guys aren't on campus anymore, who am I going to rent it to? The alumni board is a not-for-profit. They can just give the house back to the bank. It's no big deal, but I privately own these properties, and I'm not willing to take on that kind of an investment right now with building a big brick home. Because, those houses north of campus, those are $2 and $3 million homes. I'm not building that for them. This would be more of a stopgap. If they might build a bigger house in the future, and they've actually talked about buying lots north of campus and things like that, but that's probably like the 10 to 20 year plan. But this fraternity that I'm currently renting to, which is the fraternity I was in, they've been, quite frankly, kicking butt, on campus, and they have more members than they can put in the house. They've been maintaining 50 to 60 members, and if I can only fit 13, 14 guys in the house, they've got guys begging to have somewhere else to live, and most of them do rent one of my other properties down the road, but this is kind of that stopgap measure to get them by until they can afford or build the big $2 million house. And there's no risk to the alumni board if I own it. And then when I die, I've already agreed to give the entire property to them in my will, so they're all about free stuff, so.
Anything else? Thank you.
Sure.
Next order of business, please.
Special Ordinance 25, 2017, rezoning of property located at 1400 East Pew Drive.
Petitioner to speak on this, please.
Good evening, Mr. President, fellow members of council. My name is Richard Shagley. I'm here tonight representing the petitioner in this matter, Steve and Donna Isabel. This piece of property is currently zoned both R1 and C2. And the petitioner this evening is requesting it to be zoned M1. And the purpose is to construct a construction office, showroom, that mental housing storage for the materials. And that's why it went into M1. If you're familiar with this property, you do have some residential on the west side of Pew, but in that area you have all commercial or other M1 properties. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Is there anyone from the public that'd like to speak on Special Ordinance 25, 2017? Council? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next order of business, please.
Special Ordinance 26, 2017, rezoning of property located at 3951 East Margaret Drive. Again, area planning has not met.
Good evening, Mr. President, fellow members of council. My name is Richard Shagley. I'm here this evening representing the petitioner, Scott Dwyer. This property is currently zoned open space, and he's requested it to be rezoned C3. The purpose of this is he's entered into an agreement with B3 Partners. As you may recall, several months ago I was here rezoning property that was owned by Wheatfield and Skank. And that property sits at Margaret and Fruit Ridge and goes to 70. This is the company that's going to build the John Deere dealership. They realized, B3 Partners, that the proposed entrance they're going to have off of Margaret would be a little close to the residential house. As a result, to try to be a better neighbor, and obviously it does benefit them as well. This is primarily for an entrance off of Margaret that's less intrusive to the residents that will now be surrounded by B3 Partners. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Is there anyone from the public that'd like to speak on Special Ordinance 26, 2017? Please state your name and address for the record.
Donald Hyde. I have only one question for you and for the gentleman. I believe the only problem he is kind of stepping around, and the only reason they're here to discuss this would be noise. Now, he's already said that his business is going to build a John Deere dealership there. All for progress, no problem with that. Except John Deere sells tractors. Now, you're going to go buy a tractor at a dealership. You're going to have them start the tractor and hear it run. You might actually have them move the tractor. All of this causes noise. Now, they got to go into your dealership by car, park. That's going to cause noise, depending upon who shows up to buy the tractors, and mostly they're farmers. They're not coming in little quiet cars. They're coming in big cars. My question for you to ask them would be, what are they going to do about the noise? That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
The noise is somewhat going to be controlled by the setbacks that are required for the residents. There's pretty significant setbacks that for this zoning classification when it's next to residential. They're aware of those setbacks. They're also, although Mr. Hyde, I agree, the clientele don't drive in small, quiet cars. But this is an 8 to 5 operation. I'm sure there are some emergencies that might require a late-night fix on a backhoe. I can't think of any. But for the most part, this is an 8 to 5 operation. And as we discussed when we rezoned this a couple months ago, just the sight of driving down 70, I mean, it's a great visual to have those beautiful green John Deere heavy equipment lit up and visible from 70. That's why this piece is so attractive. I could also go into portions of my spiel from last month. I know Mr. Nation wasn't here, so he might benefit and enjoy it.
I'll tell him later.
Okay. But, the noise I don't think is going to be too severe. Plus, there is going to be buffering through not only trees, but I imagine some fencing to provide both security and to help with any noise that may come out of this facility. So,
Anybody from the council have any questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Oop.
yeah.
I would just ask if they put this up, and this has nothing to do with me, I don't live here, but for the gentleman that spoke, if the noise is excessive, or would they be putting in a potential contingency budget to build, like the sound walls and things like you see around the highway, if it becomes a problem, if it exceeds a certain, whatever the ambient noise decibel level, 55 decibels or whatever it is? Is that something to consider?
I have not spoken to my client about that. They have several of these around the state, and generally that's not required. And plus, I would imagine, although I'm not a sound expert, the noise generally off 70 will probably cover up any noise that they make. Plus, with the expansion of Margaret Avenue, that's slowly becoming a busier and busier road. I think those two sounds will wash out anything you have in between at the John Deere dealership. Would be my uneducated speculation on sound generated by this facility.
Thank you. Before we adjourn, I have a couple of housekeeping items. I want to thank our guests here today from the Boy Scouts. Thanks for coming in. We're a lot more civil than you see on TV with the federal side of politics. So
This is the 13-year-old that I made the shout out to last month. This is my oldest son, George. Happy to be here.
And then one last thing, we are going to have a special call next Thursday at 5:30. We have quite a bit of CF1 forms that we need to do, so Michelle will be getting that out to everybody this week. With that being said,
Move to adjourn.
okay, it's been moved to adjourn by Councilman Azar, second by Councilwoman Crossen. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Move to adjourn.